of funding has also hurt us in this area. What can we do about it? Well, I had made a suggestion earlier this year when we got the latest test results that we have bring all this data that we're generating, bring the teachers in and have them sit down, go through it, and see what they can pick out of it and see if they can make some recommendation on how we can change the problems that we have. They're the ones that are on the front line. They're the ones that understand the children. If we had done this by school, I think we would have a better handle on what we're going to be facing when we start school again in August.
Thank you. Ms. King, one of your stated goals is, quote, value of quality education of all children in Marion County, end quote. Identify 3 objectives that must be met in order to achieve this goal.
Okay, well, with quality education for all students, that means all students. It could mean regular education students, it could mean ESE students, or ELL students. So those are just a few examples of what I mean by all students in quality education. An objective that I feel that is important for me to enforce quality education is to get the teachers back in the classroom. We need to bring teachers into the classroom because currently our classrooms are overcrowded and it makes it difficult for teachers to reach every student, especially in certain cases such as inclusion. Specific or certain children, they need more attention. And if we could get extra teachers, whether it be the parapros, the teachers, and also the ESE teachers, that would be helpful. Also the ELL teachers, we need them in the classrooms and not in necessarily doing administration work. Also, I feel it is important to bring music and art and PE back into our schools. We all know that when students are in music and art, it enhances their ability to learn. It boosts their brain power. So I believe that's important. And of course, media center, we need to have those media centers open so the students can get in there, so they can do research and work on projects, and they can also get engaged in books that they enjoy reading rather than a teacher saying, okay, you have to read this today. It gives them an opportunity to read for enjoyment, and it's been proven when students read, they get better at it. Thank you.
Thank you. The next series of questions will explore Common Core and curriculum. Mr. Crawford, you have been a supporter of the belief that study and participation in the arts is a key component in improving learning throughout all areas of the curriculum. Why was funding for these programs cut?
It's really very, very simple. The state mandates what they call core subjects, and those are subjects that we have to fund first. Unfortunately, the arts, music, areas like that are not considered core subjects. So they tend to be, I hate to say it this way, but they tend to get the funding that is left over. But the state mandates what a child has to, how many credits they have to have, what those credits have to be in for them to be able to graduate. And so we are obligated to fund that. I'd love to see art and music come back. I used to play the piano. I don't play anymore. You get a little arthritis in the hands, and that makes it a little more difficult. But I love it. I think it's important. I think it gives a child a well-rounded education. And I think we saw that some years ago in the colleges when they saw it going back to what they used to call a liberal arts education became more and more important. And because companies, that's what they wanted. They wanted employees that could relate to all different subjects, not just be narrow focused. And I think that's what we've unfortunately have because of the funding availability that we've had. That's what we've had to concentrate on is a far more narrow focus than what I'd like to see.
Thank you. Common Core standards are set to be implemented in the 2014-2015 school year. Ms. King, as a teacher with 12 years in the classroom, what is your position on implementation of these standards and why?
Well, as being a teacher for 12 years, I do agree and believe that standards are important in the classroom. For example, we all know that well, not everybody, but if you're a teacher, you would know that when you exit third grade, you would need to know multiplication facts. Okay, that would be a standard that, for an example, that you would know you would need to implement. Can you repeat the second part of that question?
What is your position on implementation of these standards?
Okay, my position, well, if it is mandated that you have to teach Common Core, then of course you are going to teach Common Core. The standards are extremely important. Students need standards in every grade level because it just works consecutively. Like when you exit third grade, you go into fourth grade knowing multiplication, and then you work on your division, and it works on through 12th grade. So I do agree that standards should be implemented. As far as Common Core, sometimes it's new, and I believe the county, it's the finance that is a concern. The Common Core curriculum costs a lot of money, and that's the concern, to get the materials and the technology into the classroom to teach the standards.
Okay, thank you. These two questions will relate to teachers and their salaries. In November, the voters will have before them a ballot question to increase ad valorem taxes by 1 mil for school district needs. If passed, the temporary tax would generate $14 million annually for 4 years. Mr. Crawford, during board discussions on the 1 mil school tax referendum, you proposed and strongly insisted on language to guarantee funding would not be used for employee raises. With the starting salary of a teacher more than $3,700 below Marion County's median salary of $39,770, what are your reasons for this position?
Reasons is the need to meet all the requirements that we have to meet that the state has basically mandated for us. I loved, when I was in the business world, I loved getting a pay raise every year, but I also worked for companies that sometimes things like that couldn't happen, so I understood that. We've got to bring back, if you're going to spend the money strictly on salaries, and if you look at the ballot measure that is going to be before the voters, it lists a whole areas that the money can be spent in. But if you just concentrate on putting it into salaries, you're never going to bring those areas back. You're never going to provide the music and the arts and the computers and everything else that we have to have. And people will say, well, why do you need new computers? Well, very simply, the state is mandating that all future tests are going to be done on computers. Consequently, you have to have systems that can handle the input that's going to go into them. And we saw that when we went from a program called Dibbles to FAIR. It was a pre-testing a program. It was done on computers. And the system was repeatedly crashing because there were some counties who did not have some of the technology that other counties had. And therefore, when they were trying to transmit their data into the mainframes, it was crashing the system because it was not up to the standards. We have, if you just concentrate on salaries, then you're not going to get the full effect that you hope. And let me tell you, one of the largest pay increases that our teachers have received in the last 10 years was because of me, because one evening we were having the discussion on what we were going to do, and I said, let's take the best of both proposals and put them together. And that's what we did. So actually, everything kind of went up a little bit.
Thank you. Ms. King, on your campaign literature, you state that you will bring the school board back to responsible allocation of resources. Please identify 3 areas of irresponsible allocation and how you will modify or bring back those allocations.
Okay. The first fiscal responsibility that comes to mind is currently there is a lawsuit between the City of Ocala and Marion County School Board, where the school board has chose to spend thousands of dollars to line the pockets of an attorney. And to me, I think it would be better suited if we could work together as a community, if we could work better together as a school board with the City of Ocala and figure out a way that we can come to agreement on the issue that's taken place, because that is money that should be spent in the classroom on materials for our students rather than maybe unnecessary cost. Another issue that I see is I see there are programs that are being implemented in the classroom or in the schools that may not be necessary. A program that comes to mind when you mentioned fair testing. Well, fair testing is free from the state of Florida, and it is, they do it on the computers. But last year they implemented AimsWeb, which is on the computer, but the county is paying for it. So if we are receiving something that is free from the state and then we're paying for this program, you know, as a classroom teacher, I question that also, because most teachers have found that it is requires a lot of time, and they're finding that the data that they're using isn't always applicable to their students, and so that is a waste. There's still some other programs that probably need to be looked into also.
Okay, thank you. Each candidate will have 30 seconds to respond to this question. Voters will have the opportunity to decide a 1 mil property tax increase to fund, quote, necessary operating expenses, meeting class size requirements, and retaining state-certified teachers and paraprofessionals, with oversight of these expenditures by an independent citizens financial oversight committee, end quote. As a school board member and voter in Marion County, will you support the 1 mil tax increase? Why or why not? 30 seconds, Mr. Crawford.
You know, this is an excellent ballot resolution in the sense that it did identify all the areas that we need. And I can build a case for each and every one of them, why we could use the money and how we could use it. I'm a firm believer that your vote is private. And so I would urge everybody, read the ballot measure, consider what can be done. I'm not going to get into the game of urging you to do that. I'll let you make the decision.
Thank you. And Ms. King.
Okay. I personally do support the ballot. I believe it's critical that we are getting these teachers in the classrooms and including, again, also the art, the music, vocation, the media center. It's important. But with that being said, I also believe that as a voter, it is your choice however you decide to vote.
Thank you. That's all our questions. Thanks to Marion County Public Schools for their partnership in taping and producing this forum for broadcast. For more election information and to get dates and times for live forums hosted by the League of Women Voters, go to our website at lwvmarion.com or find us on Facebook. Don't forget to vote in August. Early voting begins on August 16, and Election Day is August 26. Thank you to the candidates for their participation, and thank you for watching. Thank you for joining us for the League of Women Voters County Commission Candidate Forum. My name is Jim Ross, Managing Editor at the Ocala Star-Banner. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization founded in 1920 by men and women who believed everyone has the right to vote. The vision of the Marion County League is to grow a community of informed voters. The mission of the Marion County League is to encourage informed and active participation in government, work to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influence public policy through education and advocacy. I will ask each question to the candidate by district in alphabetical order. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer the question and will be signaled with 30 seconds remaining. As you watch and listen to this forum, think ahead. Ask yourself which issues are most important to you and jot down what you'd like to learn from each of the candidates. Ask yourself, are they answering the question? Pay attention to how the candidates answer the questions. Are they specific, sincere, knowledgeable? Keep track of the topics. Are the candidates being asked about your priority issues? Are the questions fair and pertinent? Jot down observations. talk it out. Afterwards, talk about the forum with your friends and family. Did the forum sway your decision? Did you learn something new about the candidates' positions? Vote this August. It is your best opportunity to make your voice heard and help shape the issues that affect all of us. Before we begin the questions, we will review some general information about the Marion County Board of County Commissioners. The Board of County Commissioners oversee Marion County government's 24 departments and their offices and its budget of more than $521 million. Your tax dollars pay for fire rescue, EMS, roads, growth management, libraries, parks and recreation, as well as indigent health care and the local judicial system. Marion County has 5 constitutional officers. They are the sheriff, clerk of the court, property appraiser, supervisor of elections, and tax collector. Marion County has a population of 337,000 and is 1,584 square miles. Marion County is home to 5 municipalities: Ocala, Bellevue, Dunellen, McIntosh, and Reddick, although a majority of Marion County residents live in unincorporated Marion County. In April 2014, unemployment in Marion County was 6.6%, with 17.3% of our population living below the poverty level. The average household income in Marion County is $39,770. County commissioners have a salary based on a formula related to population. Current commissioner salaries are $78,519 plus benefits, for a total compensation package valuing $103,000. Marion County Board of County Commissioners each represent a specific district and are elected by all voters. They have a 4-year term, and the candidate must reside in the district they represent once they are elected. The Board of County Commissioners is the primary legislative and policy-making body for Marion County. The mission of Marion County is: Marion County provides professional and resourceful public services for our citizens through strategic planning and cost-effective implementation of county initiatives, generating positive results that set the standard for quality local government. Today, we are talking to candidates in the race for the District 4 County Commission seat. With us are Glenn Fiorello and Carl Zalak. The write-in candidate, Chris Tarner, was invited but is not in attendance. Let's get started with questions for the candidates. The first round of questions will deal with the financial position of the county. From 2009 to 2013, county revenues dropped 17.5%, or nearly $61 million, compared to expenditures, which dropped only 4.7%, or nearly $14.5 million. The 2013 financial reports for the county showed expenditures at $9 million more than revenues for the year. Mr. Fiorello, on your campaign material, you state that you will reduce wasteful spending. Do you think these statistics are the result of wasteful spending? And if so, what are 3 things you would do to reduce it?
Thank you. Jim, in part it is from wasteful spending. I see it day in and day out. Anyone can basically vote no to hold a budget and freeze a budget what it is. But I think when you look at all the wasteful spending as I have, you'll realize that you not only can keep the budget the same, but you can actually provide the proper services like public safety that our citizens deserve. The other day I saw a county commission meeting where a private business, a water utility, was purchased between $5 to $7 million. Now, this utility is regulated by the government itself from the state of Florida. I, for the life of me, cannot understand why a Republican would ever buy a business for us taxpayers to support. It's regulated by the government already. Why are we having another government agency regulated? That $5 to $7 million, and the same morning I saw where someone who purchased a building for $450,000 to house the utility department was purchased for $1.3 million. Just those 2 areas right there where we shouldn't have been in the utility business to begin with. It's a private sector entity, and it should remain in a private sector entity's hands. Take that money right there, you've got a good $7 million at the end of the day that we could have actually saved. These are the type of things that I've seen over and over again. $20 million that was given for someone to site a landfill outside of Marion County. Now, at first blush, it seems like a good idea, but we're always talking about jobs, jobs, jobs. We created $20 million worth of jobs in another municipality, another county. They're receiving revenue from that. We in Marion County are not, and it was a site of landfill. Not that it was a bad idea, but we're not utilizing that $20 million. That facility was open, Jim, in May of last year, ready to take garbage. We're not giving them any garbage right now. So your taxpayers' money, there's $20 million that really we were charged too much money to begin with for having that much of a surplus in an account. There's 2 items right there, and I see the clock is ticking. Thank you, I appreciate that.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Fiorello. Mr. Zalak, why hasn't the County Commission cut expenses at a rate equal to the drop in revenues, and how much longer is this financial trend sustainable?
Well, Jim, thank you so much. You know, we have what's been, quite frankly, the greatest recession that this community has ever seen since the Great Depression. Our battle is not against, you know, trying to do more in our community, but it's against the Great Recession. We have, the great thing about Marion County is that we're just starting to see the breaking of this recession. Over the last year, when I first got on the board, unemployment was at 14.2%, now down, as you stated before, around 6.6%. So we're continuing to make sure that the policies we put in place are going there to create the jobs that our neighbors and friends need. You know, government doesn't create jobs, but by taxing and continuing to put all these regulations on our businesses, we reduce their investment in our community. And so, you know, what we can do is continue to make sure that the right policies, the right taxing structure, we've eliminated fees up to $18.4 million. And the reality is that, you know, our budget shortfall, yes, we have one. It's about $3.5 million on the county commission side specifically. But the reality is that as our growth comes back, we start to see some of those 3% inclines, and I think that we can keep the taxpayers, the property owners, I think we can keep their payments steady and not increase their payments and continue to grow government. The reality is taxing and spending regulations won't solve our problems, but the growth in the private sector is going to be what helps us. Thank you.
Thank you. The next group of questions is related to funding priorities. In March 2011, the Commission voted unanimously to reject any state or federal grants that required local matching dollars unless the grant was tied to infrastructure projects. Of the 49 active state and federal grants, only 2 were not related to infrastructure. One was linked to the Ready to Read program, and the second was nearly a $1 million grant for the Home Investment Partnership Program, or HOME. Mr. Fiorello, what is your position on the policy of rejecting all federal grants that require matching dollars except those for infrastructure, and why?
A grant is still taxpayers' money, no matter how you cut it. Whether it's half the match, full match, however you want to word it, it still initially starts off with taxpayers' funding. That's where that money came from. And then again, if you've got to match it, and there's so many regulations tied into a match today, I most likely would take the same stand, but I do have a question for you. You say those 2 that were approved, Jim. Can you explain what the last one was about, the home?
The last one is the Home Investment Partnership Program. The acronym is HOME.
I'm not aware of what that entails, so I wouldn't be able to give you a good answer on something like that. But as far as the grants are concerned, we need to never forget it was your money, the taxpayers' money, that basically funded that initial grant. The money had to come from somewhere, so you most likely I would take a similar stand, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Zalak, when federal grant monies are rejected locally, federal taxes paid by Marion County citizens are redirected to other communities in the U.S. How is this policy beneficial to Marion County citizens?
Yeah, you know, the reality is when you start to read the fine print, we all figure out that federal grants and quite frankly even some state grants are filled with requirements that cost so much more than what our citizens can bear. As we started to look through those grants, that's why we came up with this policy, because it continues to be common sense. And I understand the theory that, you know, it's our taxpayer money and Florida's a donor state and we should try to get as much back as we can. That makes sense when the federal government block grants us money. But when they continue to put the rigorous requirements on it that we can no longer fund, that becomes a strenuous project. And then what happens in the end is that you have to raise taxes on property owners to fund these obligations you've made to the federal government. That's not the right policy for our community. The right policy is to make sure that the grants that we do have and the grants that we will see in the future, they fund infrastructure, that they're matching grants and don't have strings attached. Those are the ones that I think make the most sense for our community.
Thank you. The next series of questions are related to the retention of qualified emergency responders. The average annual salary